What's
All
up,
right.
everybody? Welcome back to the Brandon Golden Show, episode 9 with Brandon McDaniel with the Los Angeles Dodgers. BMAC has held several different titles with the Dodgers, and we'll kind of get into that. Most recently, the development of integration coach. He's been the vice president of player performance, and he's just done so many things throughout baseball. BMAC, thanks for being here, my man.
No, thanks for having me, man. This is an honor.
Absolutely. It's going to be really fun. So, I want to kind of unpack all the things that we just talked about in your introduction. So, let's talk to the people a little bit about what does it mean to be a vice president in player performance at the major league level with an organization such as the Dodgers?
Oh man, there's a couple things, a couple ways to look at it. Like I think it's the honor to be with such a storied organization for as long as I've been. I'm starting my 15th season, um, and grateful for that. Wondered if I was going to make it one season, let alone 15. And so to be able to like hold that title to this day and then still take on some other things has been an unbelievable blessing. But I think the bigger part of what that means is, and someone told me this like 10 years ago, they're like, hey man, you can't get promoted until you have somebody like take your job. And I really like it, when you just hear things in passing from people every once in a while, like the things that like catch you. uh I heard that and I was like, I got to be better with my staff. And we've been able to just to develop and build such a robust and like a ton of continuity within our staff that's the coolest part. Is like Stony, Trav, Yav. Now being around Paul for as long as I've been around Paul. Ethan's been here for a while. Like we've had a staff that has been together, especially at the top, the four of us at the top, and that's the coolest part about being a vice president.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can attest to some of that stuff. Being under all of those guys and working with Ethan, it's a pretty fun group to be around, and just the way that you guys foster those relationships, challenge each other, but put each other in those positions to be great is in my experience, a pretty rare thing, not only in professional baseball. I guess I shouldn't say in professional baseball. I have one experience in professional baseball, and that's with you guys. But my experience in the game in general and just in business and things like that, it's a pretty rare thing. So, how did you guys go about setting the standard for that?
Well, Andrew Friedman came in 2015. I'd been here 3 years prior to that, and I think in baseball and within the organization, like strength and conditioning was just kind of a it was just kind of a thing. Like some organizations took it really serious. Some organizations used it as like their assistant athletic trainers, and I mean this as like nice as possible. Some organizations I felt like just used it to kind of blame when things didn't go right, like when somebody got hurt or when somebody wasn't performing well. It's like, oh, okay, well we have that little group, and so we really set out going into 2016 to create an identity for the department. And that started with like 5 a.m. morning workouts, which you've been a part of before, during spring training, where we just got the group together to like talk.
Yeah.
And throughout that, we developed at the time it was like rules to live by. It's kind of evolved into guidelines to live by. You've seen those evolve. They've evolved every year, but like basically like here's who we are and what we believe in it. None of it's performance outcome related. It's all
Yeah.
process. It's all habitual. It's all about teammate behavior, and ultimately like driving the best out of each one of us individually, to be a collective group. And then when everybody deploys for the season, whether they go to LA, whether they stay in Arizona, or they go to one of the four affiliates, you're in, Campos Los Palmos and the Dominican, like, what you do, who we are, and how to go about it based off of that. And that's just taken on a life of its own. And I can, like I said about the continuity in the previous topic, it's just like that's the coolest part, is that every year we pick up and move on and like move forward with what
Yeah.
we've already developed. I think we do a really good job of not just saying, "Oh, this worked last year. Let's just keep doing it." Like that's probably one of my least favorite terms is like, "Well, it's what we've always done." Like, well,
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's going to work. Um, and I think we've just evolved, and like I I pull back a little bit, like kind of let our staff run. Autonomy is earned as one of our like top 10 things that we live by, and our staff has earned a ton of autonomy. Our leadership staff has earned a ton of autonomy, and now they kind of take it and run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a little bit of step back. So 2007, when you're with the Pittsburgh Pirates in Double A, what some of the things that we're just talking about, like the continuity and just the autonomy and how folks are able to do what they need to do because you guys trust each other, they've earned it. What are some things that you learned early on in your career in Double A, and then even when you went to Athletes Performance and then coming up to LA? How did some of that go for you?
Well, and I failed to mention Chris Dunaway and that continuity thing, and he's probably he's the OG of this whole thing. So dating back to before that, I cold called 30 organizations to get an internship when I was in college. Chris was the only dummy that answered the phone and took a chance on me. And so I did like an unpaid internship. I was hired as a GCL strength coach. Then I moved it to Double A in 2008 and 2009. And so like Chris taught me what a system was, um, and was really my first exposure to any type of system in my life. And the way that we went about things, the way that like I still appreciate and wish I could do a good job of this too. Like we would fact check everything. We would try every exercise out. And by the way, this staff was like Mubarak Malik, who was the director for the Knicks, Bill Burgos, who has been a head strength coach for the Magic, the Knicks, the Wolves, just wrote a really good book. Dale Williams, who works in the military now in Tennessee. Derek Franklin, who's like probably one of the smartest strength coaches I've ever been around, who lives in Denver, Colorado right now. We just had like an unbelievable group of people then that we worked with, and we literally we were all single, we were all very hungry, we were all driven, and like that's all we did was talked about this. Like, would you do the split squat this way? Would you do the split squat that way? How does that translate to baseball? How does that translate to speed? How does that translate to this? And so like we really got our foundation there in a time that the organization was turning over for the better in Pittsburgh, and like we kind of all went our separate ways after the '09 season. And I was catching myself in a lot of conversations with players at that point that I was like, "Dang, I'm not very smart. I need to get a little bit better at this S&C thing and not just this baseball thing." And so went back to school, got my master's degree, and like kind of made it like my mission to become an employee at Athletes Performance. Like I read Oliver Stegen's books, I knew the ins and outs of AP and core performance probably better than most people within the his own company did, because I was so addicted to being in the group, mentorships, things like that. And finally, it was like hired on to go work in the military, which I wanted to work. I wanted to work with baseball players, but I also was like, you know what? If I get in and I do really, really well, maybe I'll get a chance to work in one of the flagship facilities to be able to work with baseball players. And about a year and a half in, Sue Falsoni got the gig to be the head trainer for the Dodgers. Another like full circle moment. I was able to hire Sue back a couple years ago. She's now taken over our minor league medical group, and so like
Awesome.
being able to see how that kind of played out too has been really cool. But um, I was able to then take Athletes Performance, that system, and help kind of bring it to the Dodgers. And that was when I met Brian Stonberg. That's when I met Travis Smith. And we started here in 2012 in spring training. And like we had all had background at some level or degree with AP and brought that methodology into the Dodgers organization. And some of it was like we had a ton of success with. Some of it we fell flat on our face with, because we failed to like understand the difference of like in season and off season and what we were actually training for at that point. And so we made a lot of mistakes that I think helped us to like get to this point to where we are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can look back on my career, and I mean, I think anybody that's been in the performance world and coaching world in general, you look back and you just hope you didn't mess them up too bad. But there's a lot of things that you learn from and you build on. And for me, BMAC, it comes from just the sheer fact of like we're never gonna have this all the way figured out. There's a lot of people that think their system is elite, and it is, and there's a lot of people that systems are elite, but they're never complete, in my opinion. Just because I think if they were complete, I think baseball would be a really boring game, and all 30 teams would be doing the same thing. So kudos to you guys for building this stuff the way you do, and it would be really easy for most people to kind of rest on their laurels and say, "Hey, we've won, we've done what we've set out to do. Let's just press replay and keep it rolling." But that's never been a thing with you guys. And that kind of brings me to my next point. The development integration coach. Talk to me a little bit about that and what that means for you and how that kind of got started.
Yeah. So kind of funny story. I went to college. I went to the University of South Dakota. Um, I went there as a business major. I also went there. I weighed 275 pounds when I graduated high school. I didn't know if I was going to play football or I was going to play baseball when I got out of high school, and um, made the decision like June. This is where I'm going to go, like super late, and I'm going to play baseball. And so I got there and like business major, really good business school at the University of South Dakota, and really struggled academically my first semester, and also like had to lose a lot of weight and found like a real passion for human movement and for exercise science and those things. And I was like, you know what? Who am I kidding? I want to be a high school baseball coach one day or a college baseball coach one day. And changed my degree to physical education. And by the way, like 6 months later, I weighed 200 pounds. Can't hit a ball out of the infield anymore. Pop time was pretty good. Couldn't hit a ball in the infield because I did it the wrong way.
Yeah.
But like, kind of like got going down that path. Come back my sophomore year, have a pretty good year, having a good time, playing a little bit, and we get pulled into the athletic office in like late March. Uh, hey guys, just a heads up, the school's made the commitment to go to Division One, and 2006. That's 2 years from now. In order for us to do that, we need to reallocate the resources from the baseball program to the other top programs within the athletic department. And after this year, there's going to be no baseball program.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So now I got to go. I got to go transfer if I want to play baseball. And University of South Dakota is not a teaching school; it's a business school, and there's a really good journalism school there as well. And so I transferred to Wayne State College, which is like 45 minutes away, and they're like a nationally ranked Division II baseball program. And being the 20-year-old ignorant and arrogant person I was, failed to check in the fact that it was a teaching school. And in order for me to be a teacher, I was going to have to go to school for 4 more years to get my bachelor's degree. And I was like, nope, there's no chance I can afford that. There's no chance that I can do this. What can I get that will get me out of here with the credits that I have in 2 years? Like, oh, you can get a degree in exercise science. What can I do with that? Well, you can be a personal trainer or you can be a strength coach. I was like, you know what? Okay, that sounds good. Let's roll with that. So totally just went with it. And nothing I would ever recommend. And now that I have 3 boys, I would never like let them do that. But my mom let me make my own mistakes, which is probably why I've been able to get to this point. And so get the degree and get the internship, get to working with the Pirates. I wasn't in like I loved the weight room. I loved lifting. I was a power lifter in high school. I really got after it in the weight room in college and really got after the conditioning side of things. And so like there was some good symmetry there. But I always wanted to coach the swing, coach the throw, and just be kind of on the mechanical side. And so, as my years went on with the Dodgers, especially, and Andrew just has such like a open system, and opinions can come from all places. Like I was invited into some really cool rooms to talk about, how we're going to measure biomechanics, how we're going to coach biomechanics, how we're going to coach, actual mechanics and not just biomechanics. And over the years, it kind of just morphed into this thing where I became the guy within the organization that people go to, like, hey, what would you do to get this person in this position? Can they get in this position? Is it a mobility issue? Is it a stability issue? Is an engine issue? And then we kind of got into like building out like how to grade that, and how to scout that, and how to develop that, and all that. And so like, all these things took on a life of their own, that has been amazing. And that's like, my staff, I look at it kind of like your kids. I'm going to go talk about engine and strength and power. Like I'm going to go talk to Trav.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to talk about coordination and the swing, I'm going to go talk to Yav. And if I'm going to go talk about like integration of movement patterns within the field, I'm going to go talk to Stoney. And so again, those things just like took a life of their own. And it got to the point where I was spending more time in the bullpen and in the cage, and it just kind of rolled into this role on the coaching staff to be able to implement those things. I wouldn't say it real time. Like I would never go to a guy in the middle of the game like, hey, have you thought about this move right now? Maybe that'd be really good for your swing. Like
Right.
that wouldn't be a good look. And the players would not thrive in that system. But it's given me the ability to be in real time. It's given me the ability to like hear the conversations that are happening of like, how are we game planning? How are we moving when we're given a cue? How are we attacking this when we're fatigued? And what are the things we're talking about when we're fatigued? Like it's just given me more insight to be able to develop a plan. And then the other thing I've kind of taken on a little bit too is like this in-season field coordinator type role, that like, how are we going to practice, which ultimately means like, how are we going to run major league development?
Yeah. Which is really awesome. And congratulations for that. It's really cool. And it's really awesome to see kind of, again, being on the inside and watching how you guys, and that you mentioned those three guys along with yourself, how you guys built that out. It's been pretty impressive to watch you from afar do that as of late. How has that been for you personally? Like, how rewarding has that been? What has that felt like?
I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing that is rewarding about the gig is the relationships that you create and the World Series that we've won. Yeah. Like, and those kind of play hand in hand. I think we've won a lot over the last 6-7 years in the playoffs. Won a lot in the last 14 years in the 13 years in the organization in general. But we won because of the relationships, and because we've won, the relationships have only gotten stronger. So that's been a cool little like cycle that keeps feeding itself. My identity as a human is not wrapped up into my role.
Right.
I think my number one like thing that matters to me the most on this earth is my kids and my wife, and so like a lot of my energy is directed towards them, especially outside of here, which is the gig. Like we're here quite a bit. We work a lot of hours.
Yeah.
But my identity is like wrapped up in my relationship with Christ, and ultimately my relationship with my family. I'm super proud of the stuff that I've been able to do. I'm even more proud that like 15 years ago, my identity was wrapped up into baseball and into my career. And I can honestly say now it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate. It's a tough thing to try to ebb and flow with, and it's not easy, and it's a challenging one for sure. So, congratulations on that, man. That's really cool. Let's talk a little bit about your kids and like some of the things that you're doing with them from the travel ball side of things. Talk to me about how you got into that side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I think like any other dad, like I wanted to have my kids be a part of something special.
Yeah.
And I think that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I think and we talk about this with my oldest, like, he plays on multiple travel ball teams. It's highly coordinated. We're very smart about what we do. I'm not saying he's not a robot. We don't have him on pitch counts, and we're not like doing anything like that. But like, I've been able to use my relationships with people to like create broader relationships so like we can schedule out things so they're smart and tactful and we can get kids in good places to play and develop, and I'm able to make it to practices as much as possible. And so we kind of started that way. And I think one of my son plays on that kind of national level team, that he's not the star. And I think that's super important development for young athletes, is like not having to be the guy and
Yeah.
learning how to be a role player. And then he's got another team that he plays for, like where he hits more in the middle of the lineup, and is counted on a little bit more offensively. And so it's like now you know what it's like to be the 3-hole hitter. And I think
Hmm.
it's a great balance as kids try to achieve their goals of playing high school baseball. When they go in as freshmen, they're probably not going to be the 3 hitter. They're going to be more like the 8 hitter. They might not play shortstop, but they might play right field. So how can we learn how to play all those positions to get us on the field and be a good team contributor? But
Right.
at the end of the day, like they should morph into something, later in their sophomore year and their junior year, where they're a little bit more of a leader, both physically, and mentally and emotionally for the team, that like they've been able to take those things on. They've been able to understand those stresses. And so my journey with my soon to be on Sunday 12-year-old son has been a lot of fun. And like didn't even make the first travel ball team that he tried out for. He was on the practice squad and had to learn at a young age, like I got to earn something. My middle son, who's much, much more athletic, but much smaller. And we know like what size and travel ball means. And with
Oh
those
yeah.
maths of just like mass equals gas, and mass also is probably going to dictate how far the ball's going to go. And so like, it's been wild to see my middle son have like probably better mechanics, better feel, better athleticism, but
Mhm.
maybe can't quite hang at the highest level just because he's not big enough. And so, um, because of that, last year we started one like national level travel ball team, and somehow I woke up in the fall of 2025 and had 11. Uh,
Yeah.
my son's 10U team being one of those, and then we ended up creating 4 10U teams out at the same time. We have 3 12U teams, we have a 13U team, we have a 9U team now, we have 2 8U teams, and we have a 7U team for my youngest son, who's
Yep.
6. Because of course we needed to get him into kid pitch, because
Of
that only
course.
makes sense, right? Um, and so I have looked at it this way. Number one, I make no money. I spend a ton of money like trying to do this. I want to give an opportunity to coaches in the
Yeah.
area to be able to make a living doing this and be able to provide for their families and not make it like some really top down like Ponzi scheme type of thing, which I get the feel out of it with travel ball every once in a while, that it can be that way. It's like, hey, whatever you're doing from a coaching standpoint, like you're taking home everything, as long as you help me pay for insurance and as long as you help me pay for fields and equipment out of what we're bringing in, the rest of it's yours. And so like we provided some really good opportunities for coaches who are now all in. So
Yeah.
that's
Awesome.
that's been a lot of fun. But the other part of it too is like, um, I don't want to really be on the field with my kids. I mean,
Yeah.
of course I do, but I don't think that that's going to be the most successful thing for them moving forward. Like, I think they need to learn how to be coached by as many people as possible. I think they need to hear as much instruction from as many people as possible. Um, you know, I've sent them to hitting coaches that I'm like, I don't really know if this is going to work, and they come out and they rake because they feel better about themselves and they're more
Yeah.
confident. And I would pride myself on surrounding myself with really smart people, and I'll be like, hey, can you guys talk to my son about the way he's rotating or the way he's approaching bat path, or his stride direction or whatever, and they'll give them like objective feedback with video analysis and all this.
Yeah.
To be like, huh, okay,
Yeah.
great. It's like it's taught me already just a ton about development at this age, and I think at the end of the day, like kind of what matters the most.
Yeah.
And it's just helped me keep things in perspective as well too. Like 80% of baseball players stop playing baseball at the age of 12.
Yep.
The field gets bigger at 13. Little league is over. Travel ball becomes really the only game in town, and um, I think for the most part, that's way too young to stop playing baseball. And so I've used it as a vessel of being able to deliver that message to kids of like, if you haven't hit puberty yet, if you haven't had a time to lock in to work on this, if you do love the game, if you like to practice, like there are plenty of options out there. So
Yeah.
let's keep going because you'll never know what happens when you hit your 6 inch growth spurt, or if you put on 30 pounds, or if you just wake up one morning and you're out of your growth maturation cycle and all of a sudden you're coordinated. Like now, let's go try to figure this swing thing out.
1,000,000%. There's so much time for the development. You see it all the time. I'm looking. I got JoJo's jersey on the wall here, and he was talking about. I had him on my podcast before I started with these guys with Pirate Radio, and he talked about he went to school as a shortstop, and then he started pitching, and you just really never know when guys are going to take that next jump. So, couldn't agree more. Like, yeah, the field gets bigger at 13, but doesn't mean they should stop playing when they're in the eighth or ninth grade just because the skill set may not be there, and somebody doesn't deem them valuable as far as the travel ball side of things goes. Yeah, let's kind of take a jump in there from the performance side of things. You hear people talking about it all the time, especially around North Carolina and whatnot, training and lifting weights and doing different things, stunts, young folks' growth. What's your thought process on developing young athletes, and how have you done that, maybe even with your sons or just with young youth athletes in general?
Yeah. I mean, do we really know is the question. And I lifted a lot of weights like post puberty. Felt like it stunted my growth too, because I was doing it wrong. And Brandon, it relates back to this for me that there's a good chance that at some point throughout the day at a baseball field, like we were at Big League Field of Dreams in Chino Hills on Sunday for quite a while.
Yeah.
Saturday, we were there for all day. I'll turn around and I'll see kids jumping on each other's backs. I'll see them, carrying each other around, tackling each other, barreling each other, carrying their baseball bags that probably weigh 25 or 30 pounds. I'll see them do a lot of things that I think that are pretty big stressors.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like strength training, it's not an entity of its own. It's a human movement stressor. It's a physiological, biological stressor. And I've always kind of looked at it from that standpoint with my children, that my wife, who is a Division I gymnast, who really got into CrossFit for years, who still trains regularly, and myself, who trains almost daily in the garage, we've used like strength training as a way to teach them lifelong health. And as they've shown us that they can handle it, whether it be like a 25-pound kettlebell deadlift, or my son, who I have training like heavy eccentrics on a Beyond Power right now, 5 days before his 12th birthday, we've seen no ramifications of it. And
Right.
I mean, none. And we've only seen positives out of it so far. But I'm not throwing a barbell on his back.
Right.
I'm not having him do things that like, I think would ultimately be too much biological stress for him. But I'm having him do things that I think are going to help him hold the ground better
Yep.
and be able to feel his butt a little bit more when he's, squatting, so he's not feeling his back. When he's hitting, so he can rotate his hips better. When he's pitching, so he can hold the rubber a little bit longer. He's doing some dumbbell bench press, which 5 years ago I would have laughed at if I was going to have an almost 12-year-old doing that. But we did so many push-ups and we did so many cable presses and we did so many variations. I had him doing water ball, one arm presses to get him stability. Like at some point I was like, okay, he can handle a freaking 30-pound pair of
Yeah.
dumbbells. It's
Right.
going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think it's very similar to the hitting conversation I just had. And then every once in a while, like, hey, let's do this 6-week speed and agility course, which
Yeah.
really in LA means I'm going to bring out a bunch of toys and we're going to do a town carnival for an hour and you're going to do all these stations. And it's not speed development the way you and I would sit down and like ride a periodized progression out.
Correct.
But they're having a shitload of fun.
Yeah.
And they're pushing sleds and they're pulling sleds and they're running with parachutes and like they're just getting exposed to a lot of different things. And I think the real issue with this and why I started taking the strength training side of it super serious is it takes an hour to get everywhere in LA. Like very
Hmm.
rarely do we have practice like 5 minutes down the road.
Right.
Um, the commitment level to play sports is extremely high. My sons, we are very fortunate to find a flag football league on Friday nights here, where all three of them get to play, and it's the best speed. It's the best speed class I've ever put them in, because they're sprinting
Yeah.
in skill positions every single play for hours.
Yeah. Don't get caught.
Don't get caught and try to go catch somebody else. And so
Yep.
like, but to be frank, and I don't agree with it. It's just like my wife's basically a single wife for 9 months out of the year with three kids. Like it's tough to have them play four sports.
It
And
is.
I don't even mean that. And that like for us, finances wouldn't necessarily be an issue. For a lot of people, they are that live in LA.
Yeah.
And so playing four sports is really tough. And finding four coaches who are empathetic enough to realize like maybe you should like focus on this a little bit more this year and focus on that a little bit more next year. So we've used the strength training as just like an exposure thing
Yeah.
that like, we're not going to be able to play basketball a lot, if we're not going to be able to play football a lot, if we're not going to be able to get out on a track a lot, if we're not going to be able to get to a soccer pitch a lot, like what can we do in the weight room or in our like home gym to be able to give these kids the exposure that they need, um, to learn as many skills as they can, but also to give them the stressors that they're going to need to be able to develop tissue tolerance, and then and when the time is right, like hormone enhancement, like they don't have there's
100%.
no testosterone running through their body yet, but
Right.
that
It's coming.
back is going to help it.
It's coming. No doubt.
Thanks for tuning in to the Brandon Golden Show. Just wanted to talk briefly about Clean Fuego and our sponsor. So, if you're looking for better spin efficiency and really to be able to throw the ball without cutting it and have true spin, check out Clean Fuego at cleanfuego.com. Thanks for tuning in to the Brandon Golden Show.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think it's such a, we deal with that, not necessarily deal with it, but we run into conversations like that with some folks that, their kids play for us, so they come to our facility and they're asking questions about, we want little Johnny to get better and we want them to have that exposure, but we're scared that it's going to stunt their growth. And to that point, we're having kids do isometrics, we're having them do different positional things that's going to allow them to reap the benefits and lay the foundation and be able to go, up the ladder whenever that matters. And I think that's the really cool thing. And that's something that you guys taught me is, when coming from college baseball, all I knew was engine and strength and power and go, go, go. And it was, hey, and Carl, you told me this, Stoney told me this, everybody told me this. Like, hey, Brandon, they're not going to LA tomorrow. We have plenty of time. And I
Yep.
think that was one of the most foundational things, probably a week or two after you guys told me that, once I finally understood it. And I finally understood it and could really look at it and say, okay, we do have time. I have guys here in Arizona. They're not skipping 3 steps and going straight to you and Trav and Yav. They're going to go through their process, and we do have time to develop them. For the high school coaches, for the collegiate coaches, and even the young minor league coaches, what's your thought process, and how can they take that same approach that we just talked about from the youth development side, and how can they work with their high school, collegiate, or even young professional athletes?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And like, what do this is equity that we're trying to build,
Right.
right? This is a
100%.
this is a portfolio we're trying to build. Like whatever way you want to go into it, this is in some ways like we're just trying to get your gen ed classes out of the way
Mhm.
for your bachelor's degree. And so, and we have no time frame on that because no one's been able to show me yet too that like a 500 pound back squat equals this or that,
I've never
right?
seen. Yep.
It'd be cool if it was, but it's
It'd be
not.
simple. It'd be very simple if it was. Yeah.
And so, for me, it's like collecting all of these things. And I've kind of looked at it maybe backwards too, of like, at some point, my son's going to have a high school strength coach.
Right.
He's going to have a college strength coach. I want to teach him all the skills right now. So when he gets there, he's proficient.
Mm-hmm.
He knows for himself. He knows what his limits are. He knows what's safe. He knows what's not. Because I don't want to be the guy that has to go in there and be like, hey, do you know what I do for a living? I think you should do it this way. We're like, no, I want him to be able to just go and have all of that and have all of that exposure. And so like I've I've looked at that with no time pressure.
Yeah.
That if he's front squatting a barbell in 6 weeks, cool. If he's front squatting a barbell when he's a sophomore in high school, cool.
Cool.
I don't really I don't think that that's going to be the thing that holds him back or doesn't hold him back. He's going to be proficient in moving one way or another. And if we deem at some point that he needs to develop an engine, then we'll do the things that we know that develop engines. To your point, like 10 years ago, none of us were doing ISOs.
Right.
I remember Stoney and I being like writing programs and doing our version of what ISOs were, which was just like end range holds.
Yeah.
And thinking that we had like changed the world.
Right.
And so like, but now I have my son hooked up to a Beyond Power doing ISO, pin squats, basically pin depths, and it makes all the difference in the world. And so, he's going to have to do that again. He's going to go through another situation in his life where he's going to need that phase again. And so like, what does it matter if we start it now or if we start it then? Like, we're going to get back to it anyway. So like, we might as well just start it now and get going.
Yeah.
And strength training, the weight room, weight training, whatever word you want to do. Like, to me, it's just stress, and good amounts of stress are really good for the body. Bad amounts of stress are really bad for the body. And so like, what can I do that doesn't overload them to the point of injury, fatigue, burnout? But what can I do to make sure that I push them so they can learn their limits physically? And guess what? Like, and I'm probably going to get chastised for saying this, but like, weight room is a great place to teach mental toughness. And I don't mean mental toughness from like the being able to withstand the yelling and the puking and the, gagging and running out of breath.
Right.
But more of the discipline and accountability it takes to adhere to a program.
1,000,000% at any level. I mean, I've, again, worked in the college aspect of things, worked in professional baseball, worked with youth kids. There's definitely people that will skip reps at times. And there's folks that say, you're talking about an end range ISO, you're holding a split squat for 30 seconds. Once that clock gets to 15 seconds, if somebody's not standing right next to you, regardless of where you're at, there's going to be a point in time where you're going to kind of check the clock and see if you can get away with things. So I couldn't agree with you more on that front. The mental toughness of the self-discipline to be able to handle what you were given. And if you can't handle it, have a conversation and see why you can't handle it. That's a great point.
Yep. And it's cool. Like, I have, like I said, 3 kids at 12, 6 or 12, 10 and 6. And watching them move independently too. One's built like a linebacker, one's built like a gymnast.
Yeah.
You do pull-ups for days, one can barely do 2.
Yeah.
So, and then it's like, okay, that's not going to be his engine, but how do we get the floor up to make it his engine? The other one's never going to have a lot of mass. So how can I maximize the velocity side of things at this age to make sure the elastic formation continues to happen? So he's twitchy, because that's probably going to be the engine that he needs to have. And so I'm not trying to be like Todd Marinovich here, and like train or feed them a certain way, but I am thinking scientifically with them a lot of like, there's a good chance that this is going to be that. Like, what can I do to enhance it right now?
Of course. And you can look at that from you can look at that from a 3-year big league veteran, or you can look at that from your kids. And we do the same thing at the lab. We have an 11-year-old that we have doing some ISOs, and had Chase Burns coming in through a live, and I'm going to be working with him a lot this season, and he's super twitchy, and we're going to get him better from an isometric standpoint, and to your point, be able to hold the ground and rotate over his front side. So it's, again, the principles are the principles, and where they're at in their journey, you utilize certain things based on where they're at, but you don't try to reinvent the wheel and kind of meet them where they're at.
Yep. Yeah, I know. And I think the number one thing, and I was on the circuit for a lot of years, going out and speaking as much as I could just to get as much experience as I could of failing on stage and sounding like an idiot. But the number one question when I get off the stage or when you'd open up the forum at the end is like, hey, what does Clayton Kershaw do for his workout?
Of course.
Because for 17 years, he was the best pitcher in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always respond, and I didn't really even know I was responding this way until a few years in, but I was always like, you're asking the wrong question, because you're not training Clayton Kershaw. You're training the future Clayton Kershaw. So your question should be, what did he do when he was this age?
Yeah.
And that's when I started changing my mentality with players too. It was like, I got to understand where they came from. I got to understand what they did to get here. That will help fill the gaps with the training.
100%.
But then it really affirmed my belief in what to do with young kids to get them here, to this like athleticism level, and also like having some appreciation for where they're at on the spectrum. Some kids that are super tall, super long, super elastic need to train as much. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
They kind of have it. And like the things that we should be focusing on are probably more joint integrity, alignment, posture, keeping neural drive down 24 hours a day versus making, they're usually like pretty turned on. And other kids are on the other side of the spectrum that they're going to need to train even more than the average person just to be able to hang.
Right.
Because they can't keep mass on. They're not elastic. They have to be super dialed in neurologically to be able to coordinate their moves, because without force production and coordination, they're just not going to make it work.
Yep.
And so like that's like getting that pass, like as we do like previous injury histories and questionnaires and stuff, like just that simple conversation of like, all right, how did we get here?
Yeah.
What did you do? When did you get good at this sport? What sports did you play as a kid? Like, I have a center fielder I work with in college. He's with a college team right now, that he didn't get serious about baseball until he was like 13, but he was an elite level soccer player, and he can flat out run. And I don't believe that he was born with that. I think he had maybe he had some innate ability in there. And obviously his frame helps a ton, but he's a 6'6" runner on grass and a 6'4" runner on turf in high school.
That's pretty good.
Talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. This has been great as far as like the performance side of things goes. I think it's been awesome for people to hear. Let's kind of talk a little bit about the PBS CCS, how that got started for you, and kind of what your role is in that. And then for the people that don't know what that is, kind of explain what that is for them.
Yeah, no, I love that. I didn't even think about bringing that up on this call, so I appreciate you doing it. But Professional Baseball Strength Conditioning Coaches Society, it's 30 years old. It was started back when there was like not even every team had a strength coach, and it was kind of a by the people for the people type organization. Like it was a society created for strength coaches basically to get to the winter meetings, to be able to have conversations with GMs and front offices and be a part of what was going on at that standpoint. And so, I was introduced to it 2007, so it was probably like, barely 10 years old at that point. And there's a cool newsletter that came out every month that they'd ship one to your affiliate. They'd ship six to the coordinator. The coordinator would ship you one, so you'd read this cool little thing. It's like the World Wide Web did exist, but we clearly didn't know how to use it. And it really like it kind of morphed into this network of people, of major league strength coaches, and then minor league coordinators, and then eventually like major league assistants. We had like 90 people on the network, and usually there's someone with some tenure that takes over as president. There's a board, there's a vice president, there's a treasurer, and there's a secretary. And so I started getting involved, speaking at it, spending time with a lot of the people that were on the board, just picking their brain on things that we could do to make like the jobs of major league strength coaches better. And I was very fortunate to be voted by my peers in 2017 for Strength Coach of the Year through the PBS CCS, and that was a pretty big deal for me to be able to be voted by my peers. But ultimately, like, okay, I need to start giving back. Mind you, like at this time, I'm like my role is changing like regularly with the Dodgers. I'm like carrying multiple hats. I have a young family. I have all these things, and I get approached in the end of 2019 about taking over as president, because the sitting president had lost his job in baseball, and one of the bylaws is you have to be an active strength coach. It's like, nah, I'm good. Like, you guys need to find somebody better to do this. 2 months later, get another call. We really want you to do this. You know what? Like, no, I can't do this. I will not be good at this. This is not good. I think there'll be better people out there. It's like 4 months later. Now I'm getting calls from everybody. We want you to run. We'll help. What do you mean you'll help? Like,
Right.
we're going to make sure there's a good team around it. We know how busy you are. We just want you to be a part of this and help us run it. We think you have a good like business sense to do it. Like, okay. All right. I'll run. But in no way I don't want no fixed, election or any, anything like that. If I win the election, I'll accept the nomination and I will be the president. So I think I ran against one other person. I won, and got in and really didn't know what I was doing, but got introduced to Matt Krause. Matt Krause, who now is like our executive administrator, who basically runs the organization, kind of runs the business side of things. Dennis Pitts, who started as like our CPA, and now he's basically my life coach. And I worked with Kiyoshi most with the Pirates, so we had a long-standing relationship. Scott Weberg from the Blue Jays. James Clifford was the vice president when I got in, who was with the Mariners then, is with the Giants now. And now Ian Kadish, who's the vice president, who's the director for the Twins. Like, number one, easily like 5 people I talk to the most now about anything, and like 5 of my closest friends. But number 2, as I got in, it became apparent like we have so much to offer. We have so much to offer to youth baseball. We have so much to offer to high school baseball, to amateur baseball in general. And our organization is very inwardly thinking, like, well, how can we make the lives of 30 strength coaches better, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wanted to go about it from a different direction. And so for the last 6 years, I've been the president. My term ends next December, and I'm out. And I'm grateful for my time. But I'm more grateful that we started a call every 2 weeks, every Thursday. And it started with 4 of us. And 6 years ago, it started with 4 of us. And the other day, we had 23 people on that call. No one's being paid. No one's like, this is all volunteer, but it's like 23 people with passion that want to make this society better.
Yeah.
And they want to make not just the strength coach society better, the strength and conditioning society within baseball better. And so, like, if you have a passion for youth baseball, get on the call. If you have a passion for high school baseball, get on the call. If you want to start a special program for this, get on the call. And so, like, we've kind of went about it that way and made it our main goal. And my like number one thing is, like, if you read Legacy, the book about the All Blacks, like, I want to leave the place a better place than where I started. And like, I feel great about that. I feel great that we're going to be in a really good spot to say that, number one. But number 2, like, the only way we're going to leave it in a better place is having more people involved. And we've done. I don't think we're going to be able to look back and tangibly say anything. We maybe have brought in a little bit more money. We maybe hosted some really cool shows. You've been a part of some really cool things with the organization as well.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, we have an opportunity to be the authority on strength and conditioning in baseball, just by and large because of what we do. And the only way that we can hold up that, like, with any integrity, is to use our network and use our resources to bring in the best people of the world. And I don't believe that Major League Strength coaches are the best people to train 11-year-olds. I think there's people that do that really, really well that should be speaking on that. We should use our platform to get those people to speak on. I think amazing high school baseball coaches that would run laps around most Major League Strength coaches and what they do in the weight room. Let's use our platform to get those people to speak. And college baseball strength conditioning, in my opinion, is the perfect storm where you have time, you have kids in a ripe age where you can still build some engines. And ultimately the resources that colleges are putting into this. And so college baseball is ahead of it, in my opinion. And so, like, and you're seeing a lot of people jump from college to the professional levels as well, because I think people are catching on to that. But, like, these guys should be talking more than me. So, like, how can I shut up and, like, give them the microphone? That's the way I looked at it.
Yeah, it's to your point, it's an awesome society. I've watched it grow, since my time with you guys and to where it's at now, and kind of being on the inside helping with Krause and with what you guys have got going on, man. It's been been a really cool thing to see, and it's a very special thing that you guys should be proud of, and it's definitely one we'll be keeping tabs on. A couple
Thank
more things before we
you.
get.
And I'll just say one more thing on that
Oh,
too.
yeah,
Is
go
that
ahead.
anybody can be a member.
Yeah,
So anybody that's listening to this should go to pbsccs.org, and you can, for $25, you become a member, and like you get your CEUs taken care of. Like there's a lot of really cool things, but like we want your help. We want your help making the Society of Strength and Conditioning and baseball better, not just the Professional Baseball Strength Coach Society. Sorry.
right. No, please, and you should. And folks, for doing that, I'm. By the way, Kraus is a Pirate, so everybody listening to this Pirate Radio. Matt Kraus, East Carolina alum, so he's definitely somebody you guys should look into and support there. I'm not sure, BMAC, if I'm still a member or not, but when I get off this call, I'm going to hit up Kraus and make sure I am, because again, it's a very simple thing. But it's also a cool thing. And for strength coaches, and I was just getting ready to ask BMAC like some advice of what he has for young coaches, but I'll throw my 2 cents in there. For young coaches that want to, or any coach that wants to learn and wants to develop, being around like-minded people that are going to push you and hold you accountable, that's how you're going to get to where you want to be. And oftentimes we don't really know where we want to be or where we should be. We just know we want to do something greater than we ever thought imaginable. Well, I'm here to tell you, the people that BMAC just talked about, they've done it, they've lived it, and they're going to support you in doing that because they've supported me in doing that. And I can definitely kind of relate to that. And yeah, shameless plug for the PBS CCS. We're all in on that, and we're going to continue to push that.
Talk to me about Pirate Radio, because I got some good. My kids are rocking ECU clothing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Clayton McCullough was the first guest on the show, BMAC, and he is a East Carolina legend. But yeah, so this is run through Pirate Radio. Pirate Radio is a digital network that runs a lot of stuff for East Carolina sports. When I came in, how passionate folks are about East Carolina and the winning there. And yeah, it's an awesome platform for all of athletics down there at East Carolina.
Okay, cool. Because so obviously, I've known Clayton for well over a decade and worked with him very closely for many years at the major league level. Bryant Ward, assistant at UCLA, I've had a chance to do some work over there with him. Know him extremely well. Obviously, another East Carolina, legend. And then what's even cooler about this, and what makes it so ironic, as we're talking about youth baseball, is Bryant's older brother.
Yeah,
is one of the guys I coach baseball with.
Come on.
Yeah. So every year they go, Bryant's family, Jimmy's family, go back to Greenville, where they grew up and where their parents still live, and they go down to the field. They're very close to Cliff. So I get to hear. I don't know Cliff, but I get to hear all these stories.
Oh yeah,
East Carolina baseball, and every year they bring some clothing back. So this year I got my first East Carolina Pirate sweatshirt that I rock.
That's awesome.
And so, pumped about that. The Adidas hats don't fit me great.
Yeah, me neither.
But I do have one of those, and like, I think it's really cool. And not to do another shameless plug here, but like in the world where like in Power Fours where money, where money matters and money talks, being a guy that grew up in Iowa, being a guy that just believes in like kind of the roots and kind of believes in the foundation, like the stories I hear.
Oh yeah.
About East Carolina baseball, like it makes me want to run through a wall. It makes me want to have my kids go to school there one day.
1,000,000%. BMAC, I got chills because I lived some of those stories. Not the ones that B-Dub told, but the ones working with Cliff and hosting regionals and all that stuff, man. Like it's a special place that rallies around that team, and we haven't made it to Omaha yet, but we will. And when we do, the first thing that I'm doing is booking a ticket, and when the whole family is going out there, it's going to be a very special day. And the way Cliff does things, it's a special place because you always know where you stand. It doesn't matter if you're a coach, it doesn't matter if you're a player. You understand the precedent and what we're trying to accomplish down there, and that's greatness. And he tells you the truth. He puts you in situations to be successful. He challenges you as a person, as a man. And to me, to your point, that's all you can ask for your kids. To put somebody that's going to challenge them, that's going to watch them grow. And then you got Jeff Palumbo, Austin Knight, all those other folks down there, kids that played for me, Bryant Packard, Jake Agnos are on the staff now. It's a pretty cool, special environment that again, now I'm consulting in college baseball, and it doesn't exist to the level it does down there in Greenville.
No, yeah, that's what it's everything I've heard, and it's everything you want for your kid.
Yeah,
right? I think
absolutely.
it's that side of things. Like, not to say that anybody's going to turn down a big NIL deal.
Of course.
Like, I would much rather have that for my son, because it's a life learning lesson and a lifelong experience for them.
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Couple more questions, and I'll let you get back to your day. What do you have as far as advice goes for maybe somebody, for a high school player, a college player, or even a young guy in the minor leagues or bouncing around in independent baseball?
Well, it's funny. I've had like 4 or 5 kids that I've worked with over the years. They're getting ready to go through their first spring training, and then obviously we have a lot of like, new draft picks that they're getting ready to go through their first spring training. And so, like, when I think of things that are universal, is number one is a routine. And that's like a prep routine. So you know who you are, and you know what you're about, and you know how you feel every single day. Progressive overload is everything. For those of you that are playing multiple sports and bouncing from basketball and getting ready to go into baseball, making sure that you progressively build up those throwing programs and those swing programs. Or if you're someone that is just always playing baseball, making sure that it's not always just high volume and high intensity and everything. Like, we have to have some progressive regression in there, and making sure that we're dialing it back at some points throughout the season. And then the last part of it, I think that is super universal in this whole thing, is that you all have superpowers. Everybody that has a glove on, a bat in their hand, a ball in their hand, cleats in the dirt, they have superpowers. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there, especially at the high school level. And being a good self-evaluator and understanding the things that you're really good at, and recognizing that somebody right next to you might be really good or deemed really good or like talked about a lot, and their superpowers are completely different than yours, and you're never going to be them, and they're never going to be you. So enhance the things that you have that make you really good and that make you stand out, versus trying to be somebody that you're not.
Yeah, that's beautiful. What about from the coaching side of things, for a high school coach, a college coach, young minor league coach, or somebody in independent baseball, or the private facilities for that matter, that either want to get into professional baseball or just continue wanting to train their athletes as well as possible?
Yeah. We had a really good sermon at church the other day, and we were talking about Romans, and like, they're with no rule, there is no violation. And I think that we've tried to become everything to everybody. I think we've tried to become a one-stop shop or whatever. Like, have some standards. That way that you know what you're shooting for. And then when you're not reaching the standard, like, you understand that, and you can now put in parameters to actually get better. But if we're constantly chasing everything that shows up on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever it is, every gadget, every metric, you're not governed by anything, and you're not going to get better at anything. You're just going to be kind of good at some things. And so, like, have some very distinct standards for yourself as a coach and what you believe in, and have some distinct training standards that you have, that you can follow and that you can try to attain. And I think if you start looking at it, I read Talent Code in 2013. Daniel Coyle talks about all the hotbeds of talent in the world. The two things that stuck out to me most: female Russian tennis players, and obviously Curacao baseball players. The number one thing that they had to have was a spark. Andrew Jones hits a homer in the '96 World Series against the Yankees. Curacao blows up. We are now a baseball island. So now that's the first thing you need to have. And the second thing that you need to have is good coaching. And the third thing you need to have is perfect practice. And within the good coaching, the coaches decided, we're not going to try to make them good at everything. We're going to try to make them good at 3 things every single year. So at 6, they learn 3 things. At 7, they learn 3 things. At 8, they learn 3 things. At 9, they learn 3 things. And then by the time they were 16 years old and they were signable, they had 10 years of skill development under them. So they had built up 30 skills. And so if you look at it from that standpoint of like, I'm going to build equity for a really, really long time, I'm going to have a lot in the bank when I get done. If I keep just trying to earn it, spend it, earn it, spend it, earn it, spend it, you're never going to get to that point. And so, I think for coaches, it's like settle down, slow down, find who you are, what you believe in, and now attack it. When you get to the end of the year, if that didn't get you anywhere, we need to now go back and look at our standards.
Many percent. That's beautiful. BMAC, thank you so much for being on the show today. Can't thank you enough. It's great to hang out with you for a little bit.
I appreciate it, man. It's a privilege and an honor, and always great to chat with you, and look forward to doing it again in the future.
Absolutely. Everybody, thanks for watching the Brandon Golden Show. That was Brandon McDaniel.